Hey there, Poppets. We are back with another episode of the Poppet Pals Review. My name is Katie.
And I'm Derek.
So, this week we are covering a newer movie that just came out in 2022. It is one of my picks this week. But before we get there, we always like to fill you guys in on what's been going on in our lives for the week, specifically our horror happenings, what we've been doing in the scary horror genre. So, I can go first, or Derek, would you like to go first?
Ladies first, that's the rule.
Okie dokie. Well, I didn't have time to watch as many things as I did last week because I am back from having the flu, which sucked, but also I got to watch a lot of scary movies, which was awesome. But this week I spent a lot of time on Amazon Prime this week for whatever reason, and I did watch 2 movies on there. The first one being Where's Rose. If you follow us on Instagram, which you totally should, you would see that I put it on there as a recommendation.
Go there.
Of course, we unfortunately can't review every single movie on our podcast. So if you do go follow us on Instagram, you'll see other recommendations that we do make. But this was a really good movie. It was just made back in 2022. And if you are a Prime member, you can watch it for free on Amazon Prime. But I'm surprised it's not being talked about more. It wasn't A-list actors or anything like that. It wasn't magnificent, but I thought it was a good, scary movie. I enjoyed it. I kind of caught on to what was going on halfway through, but that didn't ruin it for me. So I definitely recommend everyone go check that out. Then I also watched a movie on Amazon Prime again called Look Away, which... It was all right. It was okay. I mean, it's probably worth one watch through if you're bored.
Okay.
I wasn't blown away though. It was kind of been there, done that. Didn't have a great resolution either. So
okay, kind of
meh.
It was meh. Little meh.
I wouldn't tell you to run out and watch it right now. Maybe if you're bored and you see it on there and you have nothing else to watch.
Yeah, nothing else. And it's on Prime, right?
Nothing else. It's on Amazon Prime, yeah.
So
and then finally I did... Yeah, if you got Prime, it's free. Why not, right?
Yeah.
But I would watch Where's Rose first before Look Away. I think it was way better. But, and then the last thing I did finally start The Last of Us on HBO. I'm not caught up to where they are at in episodes yet, but I really like it so far. I did start that.
Yeah, big fan.
I think that's all I did this week.
You did more than me.
Oh, and of course, I watched the movie we're talking about today.
Like we said, previous episode, Poppets, this is a prime example. She's watching all these, new modern films to keep you guys updated. And what did I do? I made her watch Twin Peaks. An oldie. Yeah, because I like old 80s.
That's why we work so well together, though, because you like all the old classics and I like modern, so it's fine.
Yeah, although I'm just making you watch Twin Peaks so it will, I don't want to say rot your brain, but more like trip your brain out.
I think I said
something.
What is happening about 20 times.
Wait till you get to The Return, season 3, which you probably won't last that long, but you'll really say that.
Not fall out before then.
Yeah. I guess that's one of my horror happenings, and then the other one was, and I shared this with you, I had 2 nightmares that were basically the same thing, with 2 different horror icons this week. First, and of course, Poppet Katie was in the dream because we were doing this horror adventure together. So we were both chased by Chucky in the first one, and then at the end of the, we were running out of sprint and he was about to kill us. You had the suggestion of let's bite him, and then I woke up, which was hilarious.
From now on, that's my answer. If we're in some kind of conundrum, let's bite him.
Yeah. I think we would have won that fight. But then the next night I had the same dream of Michael Myers, and I'm pretty sure we died in that one. We didn't make it. Sorry to say. But
No. It's because we
yeah.
didn't bite him.
Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, what I don't know what he'd do at that point. He'd be like, "Well, I don't know. He'd probably maybe he'd give up. I don't know. Nobody's done that to Michael Myers before."
True.
Um, but yeah, that's my horror happenings. Like I didn't I plan on watching more stuff, catching up on more stuff, but this week's been busy, so
We
yeah.
all have been there. We have all had a busy week before.
Yeah, adulthood is the real horror. Uh,
I think we
but
said that last week too.
yeah, and I'll continue to say it every week,
Every day.
every day. Uh, but yeah, I can't wait to talk about this because I enjoyed it too, and I feel like it's like I feel like it goes along with what we've been talking about, like other movies like Evil Dead, like the newer Evil Dead. Like this movie kind of goes along with it in a way, like kind of the nuttiness of Barbarian a little bit in there, and like some of my favorite like elements of my favorite movies, like The Ring. Like it had a lot of
Yeah.
that in it, which is not a bad
And
thing. Like it didn't rip it off The Ring for people
yeah,
who have heard
exactly.
that. It did not.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I picked the movie that we are reviewing this week, which was Smile, which just released at the end of 2022, and that is the
Yes.
movie we are going to be reviewing today. So I'm really
Yes.
excited to talk about it. But yeah, I guess first we will do our just general impression, spoiler free. Do you want me to go first again, or would you like to go first?
Um, we can mix it up. We can mix it up a little bit. Because mine will be brief. Because I feel like you've seen it twice now, right? So
I
you probably
have,
have more to
yeah. So
say.
I saw it when it first came out in the theater, and then I did rewatch it this week just to kind of refresh my memory from when we had originally seen it. And because I have literally the worst memory in the world, but but yeah, and that's why I was also really excited to pick this movie, is because it's something you have never seen before. You were watching it for
Yeah.
the very first time, so I'm excited to hear your first impression reactions.
Yeah, it was a big movie last year too. Like we had a lot of big movies, and this was one of the biggest. And I enjoyed it. I had fun. Um, for like my general overall impression, it's a creepy movie. Very unsettling. Just the creepy smiles you get. It delivers on those. It delivers on jump scares a lot. Like if you hate jump scares, you might not want to watch it because this movie, especially the middle has a lot. And it kind of gets a little zany towards the end, like not in a bad way, but like a more, I don't know, not Sam Raimi, not that level of like crazy, but it does like, I don't know, like kind of Barbarian level of craziness a little bit, but it's still horrific and it's still serious. Like it doesn't get like cartoony, but it's just enough to give it like, a little bit of personality, I guess. So I guess I don't know if you're a fan of The Ring, if you like Barbarian, I'd say you'd like this movie. Um, or if you like I don't know, It Follows, like any of those curse movies, because it definitely follows the beats of a curse movie. But I love curse movies, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I loved this movie. It is a great
Mm-hmm.
example of the style of horror movie that is like my number one pick. If I was gonna pick out of a bin of different horror styles, I love when something's creepy. I love kind of a haunted story. It's not quite like a haunting, it's more like you said, a curse, but it's close enough that I I kind of group that together, I guess, a little bit. I think if you are a horror fan, you will like it just because it doesn't rely on one kind of scare. It's got jump scares, it's got creepy,
Yeah.
slow burning scares, it's got just creepy
The
in your
insane
face scares.
insanity. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's got all the different kinds. It doesn't rely just on one thing. All the acting I think is really good. And I will say though, if you are not a huge horror fan, if movies do tend to stick with you, if you like scary movies, if The Ring or The Grudge bothered you, I would actually say probably maybe this isn't the movie for you.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah,
very
agreed.
much so. It's very similar to the movie It Follows, except it's not a giant walking STD, which I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Appreciate it.
so so yeah, I love this movie. I thought it was one of the best movies to come out in 2022, and last year was a big year for horror movies. So yeah, I definitely recommend
And
this movie. I mean, it does have a few things in it that are like, no, I don't think problematic or is wrong with the movie, but it took me a lot to like nitpick. I thought it was a really
yeah.
good movie.
Yeah.
So if you have not
And
watched Smile, it is available on Paramount Plus, and I would stop listening right here, go watch it, and then come back because after here we'll be talking about spoilers.
do the free trial.
Yeah,
I didn't
Paramount Plus
say
does
that.
have a free trial available that you can try it out if you have not watched Paramount Plus before,
Yeah.
and you might really like it and want to
Yeah.
use it.
And
I don't know.
yeah. And I agree with everything you said. And I totally forgot. Like, this is a pretty intelligently done movie as well. So if you like things that have good, I mean, it's probably a theme that's been done before because it's a lot about trauma, but it's still a good like thematic look at into trauma and like how that manifests and stuff. So it's not gonna rot your brain. It's not one of those horror movies. Like it's pretty intelligently done. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess I know you're the one that likes to do a lot of research on movies. I don't typically do that. But I know you had a really big week. But so did you look anything up about this movie?
Not as much as I'd like to, because normally I like to dive into those waters
You
and learn
usually give us the
everything.
whole rundown. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Well,
much, but
I thought
I
you might say that. So, while I did not do research like you typically do, because I didn't, I did just pull it up on the handy dandy Google.
yeah.
So, like I said, this movie literally just came back out in September, and it was directed by Parker Finn, and it did really well at the box office. I think I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I remember seeing a lot of promo for this movie and a lot of people doing reactions to this movie and stuff.
Yes, yes. Oh, I didn't do my job. I failed at the research, but I will say in connection to last week, because remember Evil Dead kind of started out, Sam Raimi made like a short film and then that became Evil Dead. This movie
Hmm.
started out like the same way. Like Parker Finn wrote or did a short horror film in 2020 called Laura Hasn't Slept, and that's what got adapted into Smile. So kind of a tie-in
Ah,
there, a little
okay.
bit.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. I did my job. See.
But yeah, I guess we can just start at the beginning of the movie. Of course, I thought the opening scene was like insane because sometimes horror movies start with a slow burn, they like work up to it, it's got a slow start, but the action starts pretty much right away in this movie, and the beginning is just like so creepy, I think. Like it
Yeah,
really does just give you goosebumps.
it set the tone really well, and are we talking about the part where like the part in her office, like that part with the first, is that what we're
Yeah, when
referring to?
so the first guy that comes in, and then
that first patient,
he was creepy. That first patient was creepy in general, saying like she's gonna die and he's gonna die and whatever.
Because she's a psychiatrist. Did we say that? I don't know if we said that, but
no.
you know, spoilers from here on out. She's a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
So you kind of get the feeling right away, like this is going to be about mental illness, like dealing with stuff like that, like that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, but then when the girl comes in and we see like the first attack of how the I guess we'll refer to it as a monster, because it's not really, she even says in the movie it's not a ghost.
Yeah.
But they never really actually say what it is in the movie. I mean, just like thinking of lore, it's some kind of like shapeshifter kind of thing, but
yeah, towards the end you kind of get an idea. Like that,
but it never actually really says what it is, which I actually really like about the monster in this movie is I think when they don't say what it is, it almost makes it creepier because you're in the shoes of the characters in the movie not knowing what's going to happen or how to react to this thing or how to like make it better and break the curse.
Well, yeah, and I love ambiguous things. Like, everyone hates like Blair Witch Project and stuff like that. It goes, oh, you don't see the witch and stuff. And I'm like, your imagination takes care of that. Like, let it run wild. Like, don't answer. You don't want to answer everything. Then, then it leaves your brain. Like, then you have nothing to talk about or imagine. So I appreciate that. Like, leave that. Like, leave us some mystery. That's good.
Yeah, and I think it makes it scarier because it's literally something that seemingly it feels like you can't really get away from it ever because it's embedded in your head. And I've always said that about like looking at the classic horror movie killers like Jason, Michael Myers, Freddy. I've always said even though he's not my favorite killer, Freddy Krueger, I think, would be the worst one to have to deal with because, like, you literally can't not sleep. Like, you can't go forever not sleeping. No. So there's no getting away from him. Like, the other ones...
That's true.
You can get away somehow. Like...
Yeah.
They're in the real world. You can, whatever. But Freddy Krueger, like, there's no possible way that you can never sleep again.
Well,
and this monster's kind of the same. Like, it's embedded in your head, and we see that within the movie because they, what did I refer to it as? They twilight us twice. Where
they do.
We think a scene has played out, and then it's like, oh, just kidding, none of that actually happened. Or I guess technically it's Breaking Dawned us, but we're not gonna... we're gonna act like I've not seen those movies.
Yeah, we'll review that for you. That's a horror film.
That's a horror film. But what I guess as a first time viewer, because now that I've seen it more than once, I was paying attention to more of like the little things, little details. So I guess like what was your first like, as you were watching it, like what were your favorite things about it, or what was your favorite scene or part about the storyline?
The scene I remember the most was at that party, the kid's birthday party.
The kid's
where
poor mustache.
Yeah, oh my gosh, our poor cat. But like, and that poor kid like pulls. That kid's traumatized too.
That kid's done. That kid is done.
He's done. And then he looked outside and saw her like freaking out later in the movie. Like he'll probably be the sequel. Like this poor little kid. But like when she like saw the smiling, and then she fell through the table and like cut herself, and like, and everyone's just staring at her. Like it's such a picture of like the view on mental health and mental illness. Like people are just staring at it, not really helping her.
Not helping. They're all just letting her sit there and bleed out. Yeah. And that scene, I think, was a great example of what I was talking about with her acting skills. When she falls on that table and she just starts screaming,
Yeah.
it like you feel it in your chest. Like it's
Yeah.
just so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh, she was so good in this movie. Like Kevin Bacon was like, yeah, that's my girl. But oh my
Not in a
gosh.
creepy way.
Yeah. I like I'm trying to think those were the moments that got me the most. Like those were some emotional moments, and then I don't know, most of the smile stuff like I landed with me, like all the jump scares. There were a few that did not, that I didn't like, but
Let's see, my favorite jump scare was
let's see
when
if we,
she's at her computer and she's looking at what was it? Oh, she was like listening to sound files of her
Yes.
interaction with the girl at the beginning who
oh Lord,
passed the
yes.
curse on to her. I'm sitting there expecting like a big noise to come through the sound thing or whatever.
Yeah,
But no,
yeah.
an actual face just pops up right next to her and says her name, and it made me jump so hard. Like I was not expecting it.
That stuck with me because like things like that, like what she was doing, that's what I do when I edit our podcast. Like I'm gonna freak out when I like edit this. I'll be waiting on a face.
You're gonna feel like, there's a face. It's coming.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's a great example of while there were jump scares in this movie, sometimes they were a little bit unpredictable because like you were expecting something to happen there, but I definitely thought she was gonna like hear a voice on the recording or
I did too,
just like a big boom or something like that.
Because didn't that happen like Paranormal Activity? I felt like the OG one, like he was like listening to the sound, and
Probably.
I feel like that's what made
Probably,
me
yeah.
think about that. But then nope.
Honestly, one of the creepiest jump scare scenes they gave away in their trailer, which I wish they hadn't done, because it's the scene where her sister has been possessed as the creature, or the creature makes itself look like her sister. She walks out to her
This
car,
one.
and the head
Yeah.
swings down, upside down into the
Yeah.
window. Everybody knew it was coming because it was all over TV. It was all in the trailer.
Well-
but I'll tell you, everybody in the theater when it happened still freaking jumped, even though you knew it was coming because you saw it already. It was just
Yeah.
imagine the impact if they had not put that in the trailer, though.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, and you listeners can call me a liar, but I didn't watch the trailer to this at all. And like
Ooh, okay.
yeah. And when she started walking back to the car, I said to myself, nope, something's gonna happen, because her sister is a horrible person, and there's no way she had a change of
There's
heart
no
and
way.
was going to
No
actually
way.
help her.
Yeah.
I was like, nope. She's a
Okay, so
demon.
you got to experience the head thing just for the
But
first time then while watching it.
I didn't know she was gonna do that. Like I thought, I thought maybe she'd like lean down slowly and be smiling or something, but no, that sudden bam with the head on the car going
It's
upside
like a
down was
pendulum
freaky, and
swinging.
it still got me. I was like, man,
Yeah.
movie, you're cheap right now, but you still got me.
So another scene which also does that is when she's home alone in her house, which they never really say if it's her house or if it's her fiance's house, but
It's a
and
nice
she's
house.
it's a nice house, yeah, and she's getting a glass of wine, and you're expecting someone to be like behind the refrigerator door or whatever.
Yes.
But then like the house alarm goes off, which makes you totally jump, but it's totally unexpected. But a great example of the different types of horror is the other time when she's doing the exact same thing, getting the wine glass. I was for sure someone was going to be behind the refrigerator door. She turns around.
Me too.
And the the figure of the girl who killed herself in the beginning and passed the curse on to Rose is just standing there in the dark, and it's so
That was
creepy.
great.
There was no jumping, there was no nothing. She was just standing there staring, and the way the lighting was hitting her and everything, it was almost creepier than a jump scare.
I think that's probably like somebody smiling in the dark is probably the creepiest thing I can think of.
Right.
Like
and
I think
this movie, that's probably like one of the, like, I guess that, I don't think the word's tall tales, but like a lore tale that's been passed down. The one that scared me the absolute most as a kid was of the Smiling Man, where, someone's walking down a dark street and someone starts following them and they've got this crazy smile on their face and they get closer and closer and closer. I'm sure you've heard some variation of the story.
yeah.
That,
Wait. You heard that when you were a kid?
yeah. Or, I mean,
I heard
like,
that from Mr. Nightmare like last week.
Ah!
I'm a little late.
Late. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't, maybe not a kid, but like I definitely was younger when I heard that for the first time, and scared the crap out of me, honestly.
It scares me now.
It scares me
in my 30s.
Stranger danger. That's the other reason why this was my pick for this week, because last week you picked Evil Dead, and my reasoning with Evil Dead and Sam Raimi's style, what kind of turns me off about it is so in your face. It's very like gratuitous gore. The makeup is crazy. The special effects are crazy. It's outrageous for no reason, in my opinion. But there's no makeup, no CGI. It's literally an actor standing there and they're great actors in this movie, because they go from a transition of being their character to being this really creepy creature in the matter of a second with nothing but their acting skills, and it's so subtle, such a subtle change, and it's so much scarier. It's one of those things where the subtlety just goes such a long way.
Yeah, as we talked about that last week, like Evil Dead was at its best when like they were using the minimal makeup, and we even said
Less
the
is
scariest
more.
part of Evil Dead, was Linda. Smiling Linda.
And she
Another
had
smile.
the least amount of makeup or FX makeup that out of anybody. And these people had no makeup whatsoever. Like, yeah, there were some bloody, gory parts, but they weren't over the top. Like, and I do think they kind of added to what was going on at that point in time. Of course, obviously, when like the girl in the beginning slits her neck, that was bloody, but it served a purpose to the story. And I loved in the opening credit when they go to the morgue and you just see her body under the sheet, and then the red where her neck is makes a smile. I thought that was cool.
That was a cool effect. Yeah, like there was so much of that. Like that's really where the movie shines.
Less is more. Less is so much more for me with horror movies. You don't have to be outrageous just for the sake of being outrageous to make a good scary movie.
No. And I'll be interested to see like because I think the Evil Dead movie that's going to come out, I don't know if it's this year or when that's coming out. I feel like it will have a lot of this, but it will be that thing you don't like, where it will go to the extreme.
It will still be
and
the
there'll
extreme.
be blood flying all over the screen.
I think it will too. And that was another thing that made me think of this movie to pick this week, is because the Evil Dead Rise promos did just start coming out, and the first thing I thought of when I saw their trailer, or not trailer, but their poster with the mom smiling, I was like, it looks just like the Smile promo poster.
Yeah,
so
I was
like,
kind of like, really?
Are they playing off that a little bit there? I don't know, but
yeah, that could be a studio decision. Oh, Smile did well. People liked it. Let's put smiles everywhere.
Yeah.
For Evil Dead. Yeah.
But
I could see that.
Going back to like what you were saying though about just the desperation and like this is a situation where you're really screwed no matter what, because either you let this thing pretty much prey on you, toy around with you, play cat and mouse with you, and then kill you, or you kill somebody else. But you have to do it in
Yeah.
front of an audience or it won't matter. So therefore,
Yeah.
you're gonna be screwed either way, because you like the guy in the movie that she goes to visit. He's in jail now for probably the rest of his life. So it's like
Yeah, there's no winning.
there's no winning in this movie. There's no winning.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty hopeless. And like, I don't know, and it gives you like some false hope, like, oh, there's someone who survived it, and you're like, oh, she might have a
There's
chance.
hope.
And then
See, that's when I thought it was gonna go the way of all the other movies like it, where she found somebody that broke the curse. All she's gonna have to do is record a videotape and pass it on to someone else, make a copy, like in The Ring, or something like
Yeah.
that. But he's like, oh no, you have to murder someone. You have to keep it going. You have no choice but to keep it going. But you can just pass it to someone else. So that's where it was kind of like It Follows for me, because if you haven't seen It Follows, it's basically the same kind of curse. This creature follows you around, and to get rid of it, you have to pass it on to someone else by having the sexy time with them. And that's where it lost it for me. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That made it so jokey to me and so cheesy. It honestly totally ruined the entire movie. So I thought this made that storyline just so much better, like this take on it.
Maturity.
Like I said in the beginning, It Follows to me was like, as soon as I figured out what the catch was, I was like, oh, okay, so it's a walking STD. Awesome.
Yeah. Lovely.
But that's what I love about this movie. It took the great things from all these different horror movies, like It Follows, The Ring, The Grudge, probably even I see some Evil Dead qualities to it as well. And it just took the good parts of all those and put it together, and then fixed all the things that those movies had wrong with them.
Yeah. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with The Ring.
Not that there's anything
or
wrong
The Grudge.
with. Well, when The Ring and The Grudge came out, they were both phenomenal in my opinion. I haven't watched them in a really long time, so watching them from the viewpoint of someone in 2023, we might be able to pick out some things that are like, oh well. But in their time, I thought they were amazing.
We were kids. We were
children. But
we didn't care.
I don't think that I would find anything. I think it would be nitpicking things like would have to do with this movie, because I think The Ring and The Grudge are really great creepy movies. So
yeah, and those like had some mild like themes of like trauma. Like that was the whole idea about The Grudge. Like like a bad event, like leaving a mark, and like yeah. And but unlike The Ring and like some of those, like they try to give you rules. Like The Ring, you watch this tape and you die in 7 days. Like this one, like
there's no
I don't know, you
rules.
see it happen. There's no real rules. Like they give you a
The
timeline,
only
like
rule
some
is
people died in 4 days, some people died in 7.
The only rule is that you have to, if you want out, you have to pass it on to someone else and spread the trauma. That's literally the only rule. And that's why I said I think this is more of an actual creature, because it's really playing cat and mouse with people. It's like, I want to play around with this girl a little bit longer, so I'm not going to kill her quite as quickly as I killed him, so...
Yeah, and that was kind of the part I liked. Like, it was kind of Evil Dead to me a little bit. Like, the fact that it messes with you like that. Yeah, that's where the
similarities with that I see, yeah.
Yeah, and of course the part where I guess I didn't know what it was at the time, but the first time it talked to her, like, it possesses or makes the therapist attack her,
I think was the first
or whatever,
one
and then it talks and it's like soon or something like that.
Technically, I think her original patient in the psych ward, the one we think that she stabbed to death, technically I guess it talks through him first, because he starts yelling "you're gonna die" at her, and he is possessed with it
Oh
at
yeah.
that point in time. So, but I think we
Yeah.
don't realize, like, when you're watching it as a viewer for the first time, you don't realize, like, oh, the creature's talking to her. You just kind of think it's like him saying
Yeah. Yeah.
but you really catch on when it is the therapist that starts talking to her. Or actually, no, it talks to her even before that, because when her house alarm goes off and the alarm company calls and the person on the phone's like, "Are you alone in the house?" And she said yes, and then it's like, "Are you sure?"
Oh yeah. I forgot about that one.
So
That's
actually,
true.
this creature has talked to her the entire time, and we just didn't pick up on it.
Until now. Now we
Until
know.
right this very minute. And I did it without Google.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, modern.
But
Uh.
I was actually gonna just bring that point up about it talking, because I think that is one thing that we disagreed on a little bit, because you said you didn't like the fact that it talked, that it took you out of it a little bit.
Yeah, because I just thought this movie was gonna be more about was gonna be more imagery, like an atmosphere, like somebody smiling in the dark, or just like her looking out the window and somebody turns to her and it's got that creepy smile on her face. Like I thought it was just gonna be images. Like I didn't think like people like it was gonna be some entity that would like talk at her. And when that happened, I was kind of like, because that's not what I wanted. But then it got to the ending, and it kind of all came together, and you kind of see what it is, and then you're kind of like, oh, okay, well, this is a thing with it's kind of, it's not Freddy Krueger, but it's got a personality. Like it enjoys messing with people, and
Yeah.
like that's
That-
why it does that.
Yeah, that's why the talking didn't really necessarily bother me, because I was viewing this as an actual, like, supernatural creature that we just don't know what the name for it is. Like some sort of shapeshifter creature that does exist out there in the supernatural universe, that can talk, that can look like anybody else. So I was viewing this as not
Like a
necessarily like,
Pennywise.
right, like I was viewing this not necessarily as something like in her mind or something she was being haunted by, but this was like an actual thing that had attached itself to her, like a parasite, and was. So I was like, okay, so it makes sense that it can communicate, that it talks, and like you said,
Yeah.
in the ending, with the ending, if you, hopefully you're okay with spoilers, but in the ending, when she goes to the house to try to put an end to everything,
Creepy setting.
creepy setting where her mother killed herself, and the thing turns into her mom, and then it grows into this other thing, in which I at first I think on the first viewing I kind of received it as that's what the thing looks like in its form, but actually, like, looking back on it after watching it a second time, I'm like, no, I don't even think that's what the actual thing looks like. I think it just morphed her mom into something so scary in her mind. And that's how she viewed her trauma around her mom, was this big, giant, scary monster that she has held onto all this time.
Because she was like, "You're a monster." Like she said
Right.
that to her
She
when
said
she
that
thought
to
it was
her
just
mom,
her
yeah.
mom. Yeah. So yeah, it made sense, and thematically it made sense, and like,
And that's the thing, we're going back to, like, not knowing what type of creature this is. We don't even know what it actually looks like.
which is
it
horrifying.
Yeah, because, like, usually in these types of movies, you see, like, the big bad monster at the end, like, you know, in Evil Dead, we saw the big giant tree monster come busting through the wall or whatever. But,
A bad example.
Or like you said, Pennywise, like at the end of it, you see like Pennywise's true form. But I like that we never see this thing's true form, so we really truly have no idea what it is.
Yeah, which is really scary, and like I said, the less that's explained, the better.
Mm-hmm.
We know it
Less
enough.
is more. I cannot say that enough. Less is more.
Yeah, and I guess now's the time, since we're talking about the end, to talk about that awesome job they did, because they really, I mean, not brag, but they have a right to boast, like, that they used the bare minimum of CGI
Yeah,
on
they
this
really
film.
did. I love
And like,
when when movies do opt to use actual character actors in place of a load of CGI,
Yeah,
because when it's so much CGI, it totally takes me out of it.
me too.
And
And when I saw the mom monster, I was like, "Wait, that looks like an actor. Like that doesn't look like they like morphed
no, it was totally
that
real.
mom
Yeah.
was CGI."
And
Yeah,
that makes it
like
so much scarier too. Like, I mean, I'm sure
yeah,
they
you
used a
can.
little CGI here and there to like touch it up,
Yeah,
but like
yeah,
the base of the character was an actual human character actor.
yeah, and you get like more emotion, more realness out of that. I think than a computer, and it was scarier too. Like the close-ups were really terrifying of that
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah,
And
it really
they
was.
did, and I still think they were doing like a cool trick, or I hope they were doing just a cool trick with like cameras or like miniatures or just angles making her like look giant. But maybe that was
Hmm.
CGI. I don't know,
Yeah,
but I
it's
know you can
you
do
know,
like practical effects.
and that's the good thing about it is I think you can't really tell what all is CGI and what not. I mean, that might just be coming from me of someone who I'm just a regular moviegoer watcher. Like I don't know the ins and outs of CGI. So I
Yeah,
mean, but as just a normal viewer's eye point, the fact that I can't tell.
yeah, yeah. Nothing takes you out of this movie except for the guy who was in Harold and Kumar. His performance a little bit kind of took me
He
out.
didn't bother me too
That's
much. Cal Penn, I mean, it is hard sometimes to take him serious because, yes, I have seen him primarily in comedy. Kind of the same thing I was saying earlier with A Train. Like, you
yeah.
sometimes pigeonhole acters. And I did just
Unfortunately,
watch him
yeah.
in the Santa Claus TV show on Disney Plus. So
Oh,
that was a
yeah,
transition.
yeah. That's why, because we were talking about that with your horror happening. Like that's kind of why I enjoy watching movies that have like these actors who aren't like A-list or like well-known horror movie actors. Like
Hmm.
it kind of like keeps me. It like expands the surrealism a little, like the disbelief. Like it helps with that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It does,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, I think Hal Penn didn't bother me quite as much because I have seen him. You've probably seen him mainly in his comedic roles. Like I've seen him in dramas as well, so it wasn't as bad for me. But it is when you see someone like that so recognizable. I agree. For a minute, you're like taken out of the story a little bit because you're like, oh, it's him or it's her. Like same with Carla from Scrubs is in this too, and that's immediately what I thought of when I saw her. Instead of paying attention to the
Oh
story, I
no.
was like, it's Carla.
And she like really delivered her lines and everything perfectly, but gosh, I all in my head was just like her. I just kept waiting for her to be like, "Oh, there's a pancake in the silverware drawer," or
Hmm.
there's something from Scrubs in my head, and I was like, "No, it's not Carla. Stop."
I will say, like, and that's just like a personal thing, like with us, but because, like, going back to what I said, the first thing I said, this cast, I think, did a phenomenal job with this movie. The way a lot
Yeah,
of them did flip from their character's personality to the creature's personality so effortlessly and quickly. But because, like, really, I think everyone in this movie that I can think of, I have seen in something else that's pretty well known. Like, um, of course, I said A Train and the Boys, and then the sister, Rose's sister, I saw her in 90210. There's Carla from Scrubs. There's Cal Penn from Harold and Kumar. The girl in the beginning that kills herself, I've watched her on Rain. And then, of course,
mm-hmm.
Quentin has been in like a million scary movies. And
Oh yeah,
I love
yeah,
him. So.
yeah. He's great.
And I did actually, because I am sitting here on Google, I've already given that away, I think. He's actually, it looks like, going to be possibly in the new Scream movie coming, or he was in Scream,
Wait,
right?
He
Was he in
wasn't.
Scream?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was. He was in Scream
he was in
4. He's in
the.
Scream 4, right?
Hold on. He's in no. He was in Scream that came out this year, 2022. Well, last year, 2022. He was in the newest Scream,
Oh.
and I didn't even catch it.
Oh.
Who was he? Okay, I'm gonna go down a Google rabbit hole now, so I have to stop. But he was in, of course, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, and he was in The Haunting in Connecticut too, which I loved when that first came out. Um,
Oh yeah. Forgot about
and
that.
he's actually been, I think, in a lot of other scary movies too. But my point being, almost everybody in this movie is recognizable in something else, but they just acted their part so well. It didn't bother me as
Yeah.
much in this movie as it would have in other things.
Yeah, yeah. Um yes, like the acting was good. I mean, a lot of the characters were
The
very
characters
unlikable,
were,
but they
yeah,
were
the character,
supposed to be
that's what I was about
unlikable.
to say. The characters are either so likable or so unlikable.
Yes. Yes, but it was supposed to be that way. And uh on that note, since we're talking about him, we have to talk about that ending because major spoiler
Mhm.
alert. With that ending, faced her demons, faced her past. Monster set the monster on fire. House burns down. She's won. She's overcome her mental problem and her demon, and she's like leaving. And she goes to Joel for comfort, and it looks like we're getting a happy ending, but we should have learned earlier in the movie
I'm
this
so
creature
mad I
likes
didn't pick up
to
on it.
mess with you. Yeah,
So mad.
it, I think it's because you want it to happen that way, but it
Mhm.
just it just
So
it
close.
felt
So
like
close.
yeah
I'm mad I didn't see that happening just because it happened to us once already in the movie. Like this whole scene with her going in the hospital, and that was a brutal scene where she just starts stabbing that guy to death, and then none of it ever
and
happened. And I'm like, oh, why didn't I
yeah,
see this coming at the end? It literally already did it to us once.
yeah. I wonder if I don't know, like it's kind of well, I guess they didn't want to do it more than once. I was like, I wonder if they did this ending and we're like, oh, we need to go back and shoot something showing that this creature can do that, and they did the hospital scene, but it doesn't matter
Nah,
because we
I
had some
mean,
setup.
yeah. And I
We
think
had
that
setup
goes
to
back to
this.
your like theory of that trauma is if the monster is trauma itself, even like it's always gonna stick with you, like you're not getting rid of it, it's always there. But I
Yeah,
love the very last shot, because you when I for me anyways, when she's standing there with the gasoline can above her head and then just like throws it down
smiling.
all violently, turns around with that smile, and you're just like, oh crap, like you know it's coming. But I
Yeah,
love that they didn't actually show it. You see it in the reflection of Joel's eye, like it's
that was
lit.
good.
It was good, and you could see like the curse transferring into his eye almost. Like it was.
Yeah,
I love how they shot that. I thought that was really cool.
yeah, that was. I mean, you want a happy ending, but it's horror, so you don't get it most of the time. And like, that was a good way to end it. And we don't need a sequel to
Yeah, I
this. We don't
mean,
need to see
because
Joel.
what would the sequel be? It would either just be Joel dying or him
Joel.
murdering somebody. Like, I just don't. I mean, they might try to do a sequel because if this one did well or it was talked about a lot, but I think this would just be a great standalone movie. I don't think they need to do a sequel.
It's this is an interesting example of movies that have come out lately in the 2020s. Like a lot of them are not really. I mean, if you tried really hard, you could make a franchise out of one of these, but a lot of them aren't franchisable. Like,
Mm-mm.
and
But I
they're
think that's
just like well
okay.
done movies.
I would rather have that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's great. That's a breath of fresh air. Like instead of milking this for all it's worth, like you just have one great movie and stop. Like awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for it. And like and we do we have to mention that because we both liked Barbarian as well, and that movie ended with a upbeat, fun little song, and so did this one.
Yeah, had that song stuck in my head like for like an entire day after I watched that movie.
Hmm.
But yeah, that goes back to just the whole style of the movie. Um, if you look at like the opening credit scene, it feels very like almost like Suspiria or something like that. I don't know. It's very like you get these
Yeah.
harsh noises and the flashing, and then the end credit with the song Lollipop like kind of goes with that. It's totally out of left field, but it somehow fit at the same time.
Yeah, it did. It did. Like, and this movie wasn't like wacky or crazy, or like it didn't have like the zaniness of Barbarian at the end. It like this was, it was pretty serious, and like I mean it had some crazy imagery at the end, but you know it stuck to its tone very well, I thought,
Mhm. It did. Yeah,
throughout the whole
it
thing.
kept with the same kind of theme and feel throughout the whole thing. And they made so many smart, subtle decisions that I think it just is what made it so good. It made it all come together and tie together. And it has great pacing. There's no parts that are just like really slow, but there also isn't anything that feels rushed. So it
Yeah.
has like a really good flow to it.
Yeah, I mean, it followed the beats of like The Ring and the Grudge. Like, get a curse, gotta solve the curse, gotta figure out what's going on, gotta do the, the legwork, and it's like, okay, we'll go through it. But it did it in a different way, and it was a totally different type of message with the mental illness and everything. Like, it didn't bother me, but I was like, okay, I've been here before, but it was still like done in a fresh way. So final verdict. I think it'd be a fun Friday night if you're looking for something to watch, and like it's not, it's not one of those, it's not a slasher movie, it's not something stupid. Like it's got a message behind it. Like people who have been through trauma and everything are gonna relate to this. Like it's got a good message, and it delivers, like it delivers a true horror ending. And I think it was great. And like I said, and I also kind of hope, I was wondering, like, could there be an alternate ending where like she kills Joel? Like, I wonder if that could be an alternate ending somewhere.
I don't want it to
I
happen.
don't want it to be, but I'm like,
I don't think so because the in any of the instances they never kill another person. They always kill themselves except for the guy that broke the curse by killing someone.
yeah.
I
I,
think you only break
or
like yes, technically she could have killed
or her
Joel and
fiance.
passed on the curse, but
Her ex fiance.
yeah, like I mean, come on. Like, why not just take out one of those terrible people and you and Joel could have lived happily ever after? No, but it's because Rose is a nice person and she wasn't going to
No,
do that. Like,
no.
I think she literally was, her idea was, I'll go to this house because if, yeah, the thing might kill me, but if there's no one there to witness the trauma, then the curse can't continue, right?
Well,
So I think that was her thought process of being
I
alone out
was
there.
wondering like what her plan was, because I kind of like, I forgot what I was doing, but I turned around, she was going in the house. I was like, is she? Because my mind was like, okay, she's going there to be alone, so it can't get her. Like, like I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, I think since it's so because the way I view it, if it's an actual creature, like it can still get
yeah,
you,
but
but the whole thing is it can't move on
yeah,
if someone doesn't witness the trauma. But on the backside of that, if it is like a sentient being on its own, is it just going to toy with you forever until you die of natural causes because it doesn't want to kill you with no one there to witness. So is it just going to drive you insane until you just do its
Yeah, it
bidding?
totally would.
Or
It totally
and
would.
that might be like looking too far into the storyline and nitpicking it apart, but yeah. But yeah, my final thoughts same as yours. I loved this movie. I thought it was one of the best movies of 2022. I really liked Barbarian, but this one's probably a little bit more um, like my first pick kind of
It's actually
movie.
scary. Barbarian like kind of fell out
Yeah,
of the whole horror
I
genre.
liked Barbarian, but for different reasons. You know, my style is totally like The Ring, The Conjuring, and this. Like, I really like this movie. It's one I'll go back and rewatch. Like I said, I think it took really good parts about other movies that kind of missed the mark a little bit, and then took all that together and hit the target. So I would recommend it to anyone who likes scary movies. If scary movies are not your jam, like you might want to pass on it or sleep with your light on. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I think that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, I think out of all the movies we reviewed so far, I mean, Halloween 2018 was pretty scary, but I would say this is the scariest movie we've reviewed so far. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess that wraps up our talk about Smile. Like I said before, make sure you follow us on TikTok and Instagram so you don't miss any episodes. And then we also do share extra things on our Instagram, like extra recommendations, and then just um, extra stuff that you're not going to find anywhere else. Uh, do you have
Yeah.
any last things to say?
Same. Like, check us out. Like, we'll, if we find something cool, we'll share it with you, even if it's something random. Like, I don't know, anything horror related at all. Hopefully, we are planning on or we're looking into going to some horror conventions this year. Hopefully, fingers crossed. There's a bunch. Um, so follow us there. We might see us, hanging out with
Follow
Robert
us there
England or
online. Don't
somebody.
actually follow us there, please. No.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, no, no.
Follow along with us online.
Follow along.
Please don't
Don't.
stalk me.
Yeah. But
All
that's
right.
it for this week, I believe, and we will see you next week and with another exciting episode.
Bye.